Hello and welcome. With the budget just around the corner, the news is absolutely buzzing with talk of last-minute changes and complicated tax plans. It can be a lot to keep up with, right? Well, to help you cut right through all that noise and really understand what it all means for you and your money, the experts here at My Tax Accountant have put together this special briefing on Chancellor Rachel Reeves' upcoming budget for 2025-2026. And wow, things got dramatic fast. Just days before the big announcement, a major story dropped. The Chancellor seemed to suddenly back away from a widely expected income tax rise. Now, this kind of last-minute shift sent shockwaves through the political and financial worlds, and it left everyone asking one very simple but very important question. So, after all the speculation, what does this actually mean for your money? How are the final decisions going to affect your personal finances, your savings, and maybe even your business? Okay, let's dive in and start unpacking what's really going on. To get our heads around the Chancellor's dilemma and why things like tax rises were ever on the table in the first place, we need to look at the huge economic problem she's facing. And it all boils down to one very, very big number. And that number is 20 billion pounds. That's right, 20 billion. According to the Independent Office for Budget Responsibility, the OBR, that's the size of the hole in the UK's public finances. It's a massive gap that has to be filled. And really, there are only two ways to do it. You either raise taxes or you cut public spending. So what is this fiscal gap exactly? Well, think of it like your household budget. It's the difference between the money the government expected to have coming in and what it's actually getting. Because the economy has been growing slower than hoped, less tax money is being collected, and that forces the Chancellor into a really tight spot where some very difficult choices have to be made to balance the books. Now, the Chancellor is framing all of these tough choices through her core philosophy, something she calls securonomics. And listen, this isn't just a catchy buzzword. It's a whole new approach that puts national economic security and resilience first. The goal is to rebuild the UK's industrial strength and make the finances of working people more secure. This is the lens through which every single decision on tax and spending is being viewed. Okay, so with that huge $20 billion problem as the backdrop, how could all of this actually hit your wallet? Let's zoom right in on your personal finances. That's not all. Here's where most people go wrong. When they think about tax rises, they only look at the headline rates. But some of the biggest changes are the ones you can barely see. One of the most powerful of these is something called fiscal drag. You could almost call it a stealth tax, because it's a way for the government to collect more from you without ever officially announcing a tax rate increase. It works by freezing the tax thresholds. That's the income level where you start paying tax or start paying a higher rate. So as your wages go up, even just to keep pace with inflation, you're silently pulled into a higher tax bracket. It means a bigger slice of your money goes to the tax man, and you might not even notice why. This chart shows it perfectly. Let's take a freelancer in London, for example. In this snapshot, their income and tax bill look the same for both years. But here's the catch. If they get a pay rise next year to cope with the rising cost of living, every single extra pound they earn gets taxed at the higher 40% rate, all because that threshold is frozen. So even if your salary goes up, your real take-home pay, your actual spending power, can end up shrinking. Pensions are also right in the spotlights. You've probably heard of the triple lock. It's the rule that guarantees the state pension rises each year. But it's a huge and growing cost for the government, and some economists are questioning if it's sustainable. At the same time, the generous tax relief you get for saving into a private pension is also being looked at. Any tweaks here could have a really big impact on your retirement plans down the line. And that brings us to a quick pro tip from the team at My Tax Accountant. With all this uncertainty around pensions, right now is the perfect time to get a really clear, up-to-date snapshot of your own retirement savings. Just knowing exactly where you stand and what you've got will put you in a much better position to adapt to whatever the Chancellor decides to do. And it's not just pensions. What about your other savings? The current system for ISAs, or individual savings accounts, has been called confusing and overly complicated for years. There's a big push from the financial world to give them a complete overhaul. So what are people asking for? Well, first, a much simpler system. Maybe just a single flexible ISA instead of the confusing pick and mix we have now. There are also talks about limiting how much cash you can hold tax-free to nudge people towards long-term investing. And crucially, there's a big push to use tax breaks to encourage investment in UK companies, which could really boost our own economy. Stay with me, the next point might surprise you. Okay, let's switch gears now from our personal wallets to the world of UK business. From the smallest startups and freelancers to the largest corporations. Everyone is on the edge of their seats, wondering where the Chancellor is going to look to find that extra £20 billion. One of the most talked about rumors is a potential new tax on limited liability partnerships, or LLPs. This would directly affect professions like accountants, lawyers, and consultants. And as the Law Society rightly points out, a move like that seems to fly in the face of the government's own growth strategy, which really relies on these world-class professional services. And this brilliantly illustrates the high stakes involved. This one sector employs 1.6% of the entire UK workforce. But even more importantly, it brings in almost £10 billion a year in foreign earnings for the UK. A new tax could really risk damaging a true British success story and a vital engine for our economy. Now, here's a little did you know for you. And it's a bit of a shocker. The London Stock Exchange, once a powerhouse of global finance, has recently dropped out of the top 20 markets for new company listings. It's now ranking behind Mexico. That's a massive warning sign that the UK is finding it harder to attract global investment, and business leaders are demanding action. So, what's the solution being put forward? Well, a major demand from the City of London is to get rid of the 0.5% stamp duty on buying shares. The UK is the only major market in the world that has a tax like this. Scrapping it would make trading cheaper, more competitive, and send a huge signal to the world that Britain is open for business and serious about winning back global investment. So, as we get closer to Budget Day, it all comes down to a few key balancing acts. To really make sense of the Chancellor's speech when it happens, it helps to know the main tensions she's trying to manage. So, the crucial point is understanding these competing priorities. Is she going to play it safe with a dull budget to calm the markets, or will she be radical and go for bold, pro-growth reforms? Who will bear the brunt of any tax rises, individuals or businesses? Will she leave a financial safety buffer for future shocks, or spend every penny she has? And finally, will we see real, concrete plans to boost growth? These are the key things to listen for. And all of this brings us right back to the most important question of all, the one for you. With so much up in the air, is your financial plan for yourself or for your business really ready for what's coming next? The details, the small print in those budget documents, that's what really matters. It can have a massive impact. Navigating all these changes on your own can be tough, but you absolutely don't have to. For clear, expert guidance that's tailored to your exact situation, the team at My Tax Accountant is here to help. Whether it's helping with your personal tax, your business accounting, or long-term tax planning, their specialists have got you covered. You can reach them on 020-8570-8531 or by email at info@mytaxaccountant.co.uk. And finally, just a quick and important disclaimer. The information in this presentation has been for general guidance only and isn't a substitute for professional advice. Before you make any financial decisions based on the budget, it's absolutely crucial you get specific advice tailored just for you. The experts at My Tax Accountant are ready to help with exactly that. Thanks for watching.